afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our NBB Innovation Challenge under the supervision of the Central Bank of Bahrain for the Bahrain Supernova Innovation Challenge. Now, I would like to introduce you to Vineet Munov, Head of Transaction Banking for Corporate Institutional Investment Banking at the National Bank of Bahrain. Vineet, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Melissa, and thank you, CBB and FinHub 973 for giving NBB this opportunity to be part of this innovation challenge. In today's times, things are changing really fast. Technology, the pace of transformation in technology especially is something which every organization is catching up to. That is also leading to a lot of changes in behaviors in which our clients expect both banks to catch up as well as as an individual. I think all of us realize how all of us are kind of embracing this technology in every single day in a new way. So we thought that with this great platform that CBB and FinHub Galaxy is providing, we would be able to bring together the fintech ecosystem to help solve a problem. And the problem was that in today's time, when especially the SMEs are moving towards a cloud-based ERP, it is important that we link them to the banking system in a very seamless and efficient way. If we are able to find a solution which is through which we can connect the ERP of the SMEs to the bank in a very seamless way, in an efficient way, in a manner in which the solution is also very cost effective, then I think this is one great problem that we'll be able to solve for the entire ecosystem. And this is, by the way, not just applicable to SMEs. This is even for the large companies. So it's one step forward from embracing online banking. It is basically connecting the ERP of the organization directly to the banking core system and making the whole process frictionless, efficient, and smooth. So with that initiative in mind, we had launched this contest, and we are so happy that and grateful to all the fintechs who took this challenge, who went back, worked on it, and came back and presented to us. In last few weeks, there have been multiple rounds of presentations, well coordinated by FinTech Galaxy and of course FinHub 973 providing a great platform for all the fintech to come together along with us. And we, as a team of NBB, which is comprising of the technology, product, coverage, digital channel, all of us sat through those presentations, took a deep dive into their capabilities, and then we selected a few. We would like to congratulate the 4 fintechs who got selected and wish you all the very best for the next few hours while you make the final pitch. So all the very best and look forward to a great session.
Thank you so much, Vineet, for that very nice introduction. I would like, of course, just first to welcome all of the judges on our judging panel. Our 3 main judges are Mohammed Al-Sulaiti, Head of Application Support IT Directorate at the Central Bank of Bahrain. Hello, Mohammed, and welcome with us. I would like also to of course, I already introduced Vineet. He is among our judges also. And at last but not least, Mahmoud Suwaid, Head of Digital Platforms at the National Bank of Bahrain. So without further ado, let us start with the pitch competitions. Now, I would like to remind all of the startups that you only have 5 minutes for pitching, and then we will leave the floor for the judges to ask their questions. I will be interrupting you after 5 minutes, just so you know, because we need to be fair with everyone. So let's start with the first startup, Affine. I would like to introduce Sandil Srinivasan. Sandil, please go ahead. You can share your screen and prep before we start. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you very much, Lisa. I hope you can see my screen.
Let me check. Not yet. So if you can share.
Let me just check that once again.
Yes, now it's loading.
Should be able to see it now. Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent.
Perfect. So just let me reset the clock and you can start now.
Thank you. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Hello and Assalamu alaikum to everyone. We're glad to be part of this event. And what I'd like to do is quickly introduce Affine and the platform as part of this pitch competition. A very short introduction, and I won't go into too much detail, but fundamentally, we are a low-code platform with a very high degree of security that allows you to do as a financial institution exactly what Vineet said at the start of the call. How do I interact and consume and exchange data with customers, corporates, partners, probably regulators as well? And I think from a business standpoint, the key driver is with the pandemic and with the whole process towards digitization, we're trying to build a more contactless ecosystem, the heart and soul of which should be how can I easily move data between these organizations seamlessly? So what we typically do is we start with a typical bank infrastructure. You already have your core banking and your product processors. Now, what our platform does, we have our software installed in the cloud. It's called the Affine Data Pipes. It has a bunch of components that I will get into in a little bit of more detail. But the first step when we typically work with a financial institution like yours is we integrate with your product processors. So we have agents that sit within the bank that are responsible for securely moving data from our cloud to the bank and the other way around. And these agents take care of moving the files or the information ultimately to your core banking systems so that the actual movement of money happens. So we set that up and then we wire it together and then it's connected to the cloud. And once it's connected to the cloud, you're ready to go and start bringing on your corporates and other customers that you want to integrate. Now, the typical journey is a corporate comes in and says, I'd like to go and bring in a file, and here is a standard payment file that I'm going to give you. Now, that's a typical paying 001 file. As an example, there are multiple file formats that we support. We quickly represent this file within our system. So we have a way of mapping that file, defining the formats. Once we do that, we do a one-time mapping, which is basically what is the format that the customer sends you the file in, and what is the format that you have it in. Because you in the bank would standardize your file format as well. Now, I'm saying files, but this could also apply to APIs in any real-time communication. Once we do that, we're sorted. The partner is live. The partner is also connected to our cloud. They can connect via traditional SFTP, or they can connect through another agent. Now, we encourage the use of the agent because it provides some additional insight like heartbeats. We can do additional levels of security. Now, once they're up and running, it's pretty straightforward and simple. The partner would drop a file. And as part of that, they would basically say, here's a file. It could be an XML file with 100,000 payments, and we want to send it to the bank. The way that would work is the file first off gets compressed, encrypted by our agent. And this is where we have a bit of innovation in how we've done all of this. We don't use traditional file exchange mechanisms. We essentially under the hoods chunk split, compress the file, and we almost stream it into our platform in a very sophisticated manner. That provides better security, but that also provides better ways for us to unpack the file and actually work on it. Now, what does work on it mean? Obviously, we're going to convert it from the format that the customer sends to the format that the bank sends. But you as a bank may have additional requirements where you say, I want to do a bit more than just move the file in a converted fashion. I want to probably validate some of the bank codes. Maybe I want to validate the big code of the Swift code as an instance. So we have all of that within our framework. We can extend the capability of the platform to do a little bit more than purely moving the files and exchanging the data. And we store that reference data within our system as well. And ultimately, when all of this is completed, the file moves to the bank, the transformed file moves to the bank. So you can see that this is really light and all the heavy lifting is done in our cloud. So it's very simple and easy for the bank and for the partner to kind of exchange that data. That's a typical straightforward flow. You as a bank will have access to operational dashboards. So you can do historical trend analysis. You can work with your customers to reprice the way you charge for these files and these payments by looking at historical data. At a more operational level, you may want to go into each and every file transfer and see what actually went wrong. Obviously, there could be some errors, technical errors. You want to troubleshoot, go into detail, figure out what went wrong. And then you can also go and reconstruct that file in case there was some manual processing error and you want to kind of replay all of that. What's unique about our platform, besides the fact that we offer a higher degree of security and we don't work on standard SFTP protocol only, but we also support much more sophisticated ways of doing that. We operate at very high scale. So if you go from multiple partners, we can easily scale the solution out. And we offer a lot of other features which I won't get into because in detail.
Sorry, Sandil, I have to interrupt you. Sorry.
Anyway,
thank you so much. Yeah, I would like to leave the floor now for the judges for any questions.
Sure. Thanks. So a question now. You mentioned about the platform and it has various file formats that it can be supported.
Yeah.
Have you done any kind of implementation where the trade-related files can be supported?
Not directly trade, but as a format, we support XML, CSV, ISO 20022, delimited. We support a wide variety of formats. So not specifically the trade format is something that we have done, but we can easily extend our platform to support that. Absolutely.
Sindil, what is webhooks?
In case you have a need to do additional processing from our cloud as part of the file movement, for instance, you want to do a name screening and you want to capture the account number and invoke a third-party API, maybe from CBB or maybe from a central government regulatory authority, we have the ability to kind of orchestrate a journey that involves integrating with other APIs beyond just movement of the file and beyond file transformation. So there's a way to kind of hook into the platform and then extend the capability of it.
Okay. And what about the reverse journey? Because you spoke, you will have an agent at the customer side to transfer the file. And suppose bank wants to send a file from their side to customer, so that agent will take care of those things, or you will have to do something at the back end?
No, the same agent takes care of the reverse flow. It's a very common pattern, MT940 or account statements that the bank sends to the customers. They go through the exact same reverse flow. Nothing really changes. Otherwise, no additional software needs to be set up.
Okay. That's it. That's it from my side.
Sandil, in the current implementations you have you had any cybersecurity challenges, and how did you manage that?
It's usually when we work with a bank, it's pretty common that they go through a formal AppSec, InfoSec kind of a process to kind of look at the vulnerabilities of the system. There are different approaches. We had multiple reports. We went back and forth, and we nailed down issues in a combination of ways. One of which, obviously, from the get-go, our platform does two-way SSL mutual authentication. Even the files actually move through a HTTPS. They get chunked and they move through a secure channel. So one of the advantages of our platform is we actually don't write the file to the disk except for the first hop and the last hop. So there's lesser residual risk in writing a file on a file system. Besides that, the other challenges that are pretty common are things like unsecured endpoints. And for that, it's a question of working closely with the bank to make sure that the bank's endpoints are opened only to the ones that we require. We actually only require one endpoint, one port, and all of our communication happens on that. So it's common that we do the AppSec process with the bank, but there's nothing glaring that we've kind of had to work on. Inherently, we use two-way SSL, and that solved a lot of our problems.
Thank you.
Sure.
Sandil, you mentioned about the dashboard. Is this for the bank or for the client?
it's for the bank, it can be extended to the client as well. In fact, one of the other things that many customers ask for is the ability to do what we call a reauth. So they initiate the file, but they want a manual step before it even gets sent to the bank, and they want a reauth at the customer level. So if we have to provide customer-facing dashboards, we have a way to bring that. It's an extension of the platform. It's not something I've demoed today, but it's definitely part of our core capability to do that as well. So they do reauth, they do dashboards. We can actually troubleshoot the first level of errors, because perhaps the error is with the file itself and not with the technical exchange. So that doesn't even need to come to the bank. That's something that they themselves can troubleshoot and work on. Right? It saves your operations cost.
And one last question on the support side, because this, especially at the time of implementing, is bank expected to have the technical expertise to implement the file at the client, or is it as a model you provide that capability to the client and to the bank?
It's a model we provide. You'll need to facilitate technical discussions and more of a coordination activity, because ultimately it's your customer, you want to govern the relationship, but we will take care of all the heavy lifting as part of our engagement.
Okay.
I have a question with regards to the validation of the files that is shared. You mentioned in your proposal that there are checksums that you are checking them, and also in your integration gateway, you are also validating there is a business logic or business validation in it. So most probably, are you handling this just through this layer, or are there any different layers that you are validating the files?
So the checksum validation happens as soon as we receive the file in our platform, right? So that we make sure that we fully receive the file, and then the checksum validation happens again when we receive the reverse file from the bank. So that's where the checksum validation really kicks in. Over and above that, there are validations at a data format level. So the big code has a regular expression, the amount has to be a number, things like that, right? So those validations are what we configure and set up. I hope that answered your question, Mohammed.
Yeah, clear. One more thing is about the securing the APIs.
Yeah.
Are you using the APIs tokenization?
JSON Web Token is standard part of API authentication.
Okay.
I have a question from my side. Is your solution PADSS certified, or?
No, it's not. It's not PAD certified.
Okay.
Any other questions from the judges? All is good? Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sanjil, and best of luck. So I will give some time for the judges to compile their scores. In the meantime, I would like to invite Balaji Muthu from Mindgate, please, to go ahead and start sharing his screen and preparing himself. Yes.
So just waiting for your green signal, Melissa. My screen.
You ready?
Everybody?
Okay, 1 second, and you can start now.
Excellent. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Balaji. Mindgate is a payment technology partner working with large banks across the globe. Specifically on this corporate integration that we have handled more than 3,000 plus corporates integration for 30 plus banks. In Middle East, we have a good amount of customers who are using our platform for corporate integration across many geography. Probably I'll not rant. So the key challenge today is the customers are upgrading themselves. Many of the customers are in cloud. So how do we facilitate automation? At the same time, whatever the day-to-day challenges in terms of check payments, manually instructed form, or internet banking, all this is posing a problem in bulk payments actually. So net how we can provide an automated, faster platform which is secure and safe to use? Actually, that's a question that we have. So what is that we are going to do with the client? So we have to side by side sit and cater their requirement. Both IT savvy companies who are already in the cloud, who are working in latest technology. At the same time, bank also caters the legacy customer. So how do we cater those legacy customers as well? That is the key thing actually, because we are targeting set of new customers. At the same time, we need to cater our existing customer. So how a single platform can integrate with mid-size ERP or large ERP or no ERP customers? How do we automate this whole thing where the customer can start interacting with the bank through automation system? The key requirement, I very quickly, since it's 5 minutes, I'm skipping this. So the platform that we call is a transaction banking DGTB. We transact DGTB is the platform name. It's a transaction banking in a box. It comes with many features, since we are talking about host to host, which can cater not only for payments. Predominantly, most of the banks started looking at other elements also. While Vineet was mentioning the trade transaction, even collection posting, check deposits. There are many events which are taking place using the host to host, and that is where people are looking at. So anything bulk transaction with the bank that has to happen can happen through this platform. We have a portal for customers. We have a portal for bank. We have API, which is for the customer as well as towards the bank. Mobile app SDK can be provided, which can be integrated with the bank's existing mobile ecosystem, and then SFTP, which is part of the cloud. So the proposed architecture would be like corporate SME can come via the toolkit that we provide through API or the toolkit. Then we have the cloud infrastructure where we will be mapping the services in terms of what is the source format, what is the business logic that we have to imply in that format. For example, IBAN validation or any other validation that has to happen. Those business logic can be given cutoff master, holiday master, currency master, trade deal reference validation, so on and so forth. And the complete, after all validation, then we have to define what is the output format for the bank to support, and we define that output format, and then the transformation happens. It can be a typical API, it can be Excel CSV, it can be MT, MX message, CAMP message, and so on and so forth. And these messages get transformed, and the bank side integration can happen. Now, bank has a choice. Typically, most of the corporates expects that after this ERP integration, they want to have a review of the payments initiated and approve that. That can happen through the internet banking or a portal that can have a two-factor authentication, or mobile that can indicate saying that these are the transactions that it is waiting for your approval actually. So that is called semi-host to host. Middle East still looks for that element going on, and this is the architecture perspective actually. So the platform is microservices platform, API first approach. So as I told you, this has many features that can be bundled. As of now, we can start with the payments and then extend that to multiple other services bank wants to do through the system actually. CIA is ensured. I talk about 3 strong pillars, 3 T we call: transport, transform, and transact. So these are the 3 pillars that is going to help the overall ecosystem. How do we transport the message from the corporate or the SME to the ecosystem? And then how we ensure the security CIA compatibility is ensured. And then how do we transform?
Apologies, Balaji, but I have to interrupt you. Sorry, the time is up. Thank you so much, Balaji.
Thank you.
Best of luck. I'll leave the floor for the judges. Thank you.
Thanks, Balaji. So question from my side. So if the bank wants to go for just the host-to-host solution, do they still have to go for the whole platform, or is this something this can be implemented in isolation?
Absolutely. So modularized, completely modularized, bank can pick and choose. The opportunity that we are creating banks to not to have any constraint in the future. assuming there is a relationship which is having a payments host to host, and suddenly they say, I want to do something else. At that point of time, bank need not to run and post and pillar. It's just that we have to enable that module and we can start working actually. Since it has a PADSS certification, the card transaction issues also can address actually.
And you mentioned that a very interesting term, semi-host to host. So this can be fully integrated seamlessly, or if, like you mentioned, some, there is a bit of a mindset issue here in Middle East that before the final file release, they want to authorize. Some of the senior members of the clients might want to authorize. So in that case, that layer can also be introduced. And this can also be done through the mobile. Is that understanding right?
Absolutely right, Vinay. So we have authorization matrix, which very quickly validated against the file. That is the first journey. The second journey is most of the corporates say that, boss, can I see that before you process? That is also viable. And third is your back office can also see that before they can process in case of a criteria that you want to set. So we're just looking at eyeball verification process also can be implemented actually. Second point, as you rightly said, we can park it in internet banking, or we can have a portal where these corporates can go and approve, or part of your internet banking, you can bring them. Like for example, most of the SME, you may not give the internet banking access, but you give them a view only access. So that is also possible actually. So it depends on how the potential customer that is, how expensive they can be actually, right? No, we need to cater a single system, multi-type of customers.
And one last question from my side, and something similar to what I asked the earlier contestant as well. In terms of the implementation and support framework, is the implementation required from the bank technical staff and the support, or is this something that you would be providing?
So during the initial implementation of the whole system, definitely we will work with the bank IT, but every corporate onboarding, host-to-host corporate onboarding, we don't need technology to be intervening, because this is once set up, then it is a run actually. We can train your people also, who is your relationship manager and the implementation team. They can also take over this journey, and independently you can do onboarding actually, and we can also help you. And this is something that we started the whole company with this service only.
I have two queries, Balaji. One, what is the implementation timeline differences compared to cloud and in-premises that is possible as per your experience? And second is related to these, I have seen Kobo, WAM and everything. So as Vinit asked earlier about the module, I want to know how the host-to-host solution can be utilized for these Kobo and WAM, and how this file or API will be playing the role in those kind of most of the predominantly collection processes.
Okay. So I am assuming your first question of implementation is about onboarding a client. So that is what you mean implementation. So
no. I was talking about from the implementation as a product implementation timeline perspective.
See, cloud definitely is going to help a lot, because predominantly the infrastructure and the setup is done by us. It is all configured, pre-configured in the cloud. All that we need is certain APIs that bank has to publish so that we can interact with the bank. Okay, so that lead time is going to be much lesser than if we implement it on-premise. That is the reason why most of the system today are started giving cloud-based, because that initial setup time is drastically come down actually. Now, the second question that you asked about is having this host-to-host, which is the B2B. So business can do the banking with this one of the channels. So we treat this one of the channel, any channel that should cater all the business transaction of the bank that with the client actually. They may start with the payment, but tomorrow they want to say that I want to do a virtual account with you. How do I use the existing channel to cater them, additional services actually? We cannot go and say, okay, now if you want to have this service, then you have to go for this. That should not be the case. That's the reason we want to have a unique platform which will cater all the requirement actually.
Thank you.
Hi, Balaji. In the service types and transaction types, you've mentioned WPS, but with not much detail. What can you talk to us more about this?
Okay, the wage protection system, which is governed by government, where
I'm familiar with the system and the program, but what would your system support with?
Okay, so we have typically, if you talk about three segments, very small, medium, large. First is that every month the WPS is initiated through this whole system. The corporate, they can have their own set of files, and we do ensure that the transformation happens as per the specifications that system can process, actually salary information file or SA file that we call. And the validation from each mandatory field, non-mandatory field that happens here, and pass the message to core banking for debiting the account, that is single debit multi-credit process happens, and then process through the respective system. Some of the salary can be book transfer, some of the salary can be through Favori Plus, and that call will happen, EFTX call will happen, and then go back to the customer through acknowledgement, not acknowledgement, and all the other messages that they update saying that your salary is getting paid. In between, the customer can choose that my WPS file, I don't need to approve in internet banking because my ERP is already approved and I have a secure channel. So you guys straight away process. Most of the WPS cases, people use STP. But if at all, if a corporate wants to approve through the portal, then we can park in the portal and they can approve it.
So how is it different from processing normal salaries?
It is one of the same actually. So in UAE, WPS are mandatory. So Bahrain is in, it's still in progress. So
it's mandatory in Bahrain as well.
Yeah, correct. So it is nothing but your regular payment, but there are certain update has to go. And that update is something that we can build as part of the output file that we have actually.
All right. So it's more on the reporting side than the transactions.
No, we specialize. See, the core objective of the B2B host to host is processing actually.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry, I was muted. So, I was asking that it's more on the reporting side rather than on the transaction side, right?
No, so it is together. So we ensure that transaction is also taken care of. Yeah, WPS, you want to say something on Buddy?
Yeah, that's correct. So it's both basically the transaction processing approach plus reporting to the regulatory of the country. Like UAE has its own regulatory requirement, and Bahrain has recently we have WPS is launched, and similar way Saudi. So every country has its own approach, and it includes for transactional processing approach as well as the reporting.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. So it's a single platform, multi-country. So tomorrow when Vineet looks at expanding his footprint to the other countries, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You start adapting those customers so that those respective country adapters can be just plug in and start working actually. This is a second advantage why we have a multi-tenant, multi-country platform.
Hi, Balaji. Sorry. Yeah, hi, Balaji. What are the security controls supported by your system and encryption types?
Yeah, Buddy.
Yes. So basically, we have multi security protocols we implement. Like when it comes file, we do the file level encryption using PGP or any other standard encryption mechanisms. And for that also, we provide a tool or adapter for the customers, which will take care of it actually. That's a point number one. Point number two, also the file is digitally signed by using certificates, standard certificate. That's the second approach. Third is that in case if the transaction takes place over the API stack, then we also provide API securities like using OAuth 2.0 security mechanism. And even over the API, also the files are encrypted, or even API has two variants. One is that can be a file, or can be the file can be sent through JSON or any other data structured message. So that will have its own set of security mechanism. This is how the file out transported from the customer to bank's premises, or it's our cloud infrastructure. From there, it reaches to the bank. Second is that the files for encryption is once done. The similar way, we also, when we communicate back to the customers, those all responses and communication back to the corporate customer ERP systems are completely secure. Then as Balaji has highlighted, the platform is completely PADSS certified. That's all about.
What do you, one more question in line with what Mahmood has asked. So let's say our customer says he wants to send file with a particular type of encryption only, which is provided by the customer. So is it possible to do this customization to
Yes.
adapt to the security or standard or whatever API provided by the customer to encrypt and decrypt?
That's correct. So we have encryption component is a common component which has various encryption technologies built in within that. And if customer goes, I mean, in some of the customer, if comes up with their own specific standards, the adapter, what we are calling is that can be specifically customized and given to them. That's a point, one side of the customer side. Then other side of it, our bank end, that specific component can be customized since it's completely modularized and that can be taken. However, we do support all the predominant of the encryption security standards, which is expected in the market, in the recent market, across the Middle East.
Okay.
I have a question with regards to the failure management in case of a failure of moving to your to the core banking or something. So, is there any functionality like to reattempt, or even that it can be monitored and tracked through your dashboards and reporting? So, just I would like to know more on that.
Sure. We have two ways of exposing an API stack to the corporate customer's ERP system or corporate customer. One is that our API is completely open standard APIs, and we do have in front of our stack API manager, which can be APG or open source like a WSO2 or IBM Connect. So various API manager, API gateway can be placed in front of our stack so that our API is open standard and customer comes up with the various customization requests. As you rightly, one more judge said that they want to have a customized encryption mechanism. So what happens that all those things handled in this API manager level in case of API based integration approach perspective. So that's how we can scale it up.
There's just to add, sorry, buddy, very quickly, just to add, there's a file level similarly that we do validation of file, and there is a NAC act sent to the customer, and they have a choice whether to fully process. In case of a file has a problem, they have a choice to fully reject also. So for example, WPS, they say 500 employee, there are 50 employee record is a problem, 450 employee salary can be processed. But in a vendor payment, if 500 payment has come and there is a problem in the file, we should not process because we don't know what could be the reason. So we reject the whole batch. So these are the configuration that we can do. And this is the second. So file level validation as well as API level validation, what Buddy just talked about.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much for all the judges. All is good. Anyone would like to ask any more questions? Great. Thank you, Balaji. Thank you, Vadibal, for your
Thank
time.
you, Balaji.
Thank you so much. I'm going on video mute also. Thank you.
No worries. So let's move to our next startup until the judges compile their scores. So I would like to invite Sumit Kutiala from Nucleus Software to, yes, thank you, Sumit. Go ahead, you can share your screen and start preparing. Yeah.
Is it visible?
Not yet. It was visible before, but now now we can see it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So now this is the screen. Can you see? Everybody can see the screen?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Right. So myself, Amir Siddiqui, and Sumit will be taking up on the solution briefing. And before I begin, just wanted to touch base on the quick background of the problem statement and also about us. We are a 3-decade-old organization, and with a presence of 50 countries and 200 plus customers. And just coming to the next part of it, where we define the problem statement and the required. So with the absence of the host-to-host solution or cloud-based ERP solution, there is issues like payment instructions and downloading that is done manually. So on that basis, it is always required for a complex and time-consuming process, which becomes a hazard. So the solution that is required is host-to-host integrated solution that will connect the client ERP with banking system. In the same purview, we have created the solution presentation here. And over to you, Sumit, for briefing on the solution part.
Thanks, Ahmed. Welcome everyone. So what we are proposing out here is Finaxia's host-to-host solution. So if you see on the screen, right, we have what we are trying to showcase here is that the customer's cloud ERP solution is there. There are multiple customers attached to it. So what we have done is we have introduced an host-to-host utility, which is a Java J2E based platform. Now, the benefit here is that at the bank side, at the corporate side as well as on the bank side, this utility will be installed at each and every client level details, right? And here, if you see here, it can take inputs from the files which are coming from customers' ERP solutions to the bank side, or preferably it could be Finaxia, it could be any transaction banking platform we are talking about. Once that is received, now there are multiple cases. If you see here, we have multiple options of transferring files from customers' ERP solution to the bank side. Now here we have Excel's, PDFs, we have CSV formats, we can have any other images as well. Now here the solution could be, let's say, for the payments part. A file may contain multiple products, right? It could be, let's say, from RTGS product to EFT products, Swift transactions. So even if we receive a single file, the system is capable enough of moving that file from customers' ERP solutions to the transaction banking platform through this utility. Now, this utility has its own dashboard, which is available for both bank as well as the customer side. The benefit here is that we can also do the file level validations, or preferably saying that a business level validations can be achieved through the solution perspective. For example, we can do, let's say, a checksum scenarios. We can say a business level scenarios like BIC is not maintained properly, product is not correct, and others, right? Plus that, we also have a very good decryption logic, which is built up on this customer's ERP solution itself. The benefit here is that on the customer front, there are two options. One is whether the customer can themselves gives their the keys to us, and we can decrypt those files using those keys. Now that is wherein we prefer to have this thing done in customer onboarding itself. Secondly, there can be another scenarios wherein customer says you use your own decryption methods. We have that options as well, which is like AES 256, AES 128. We can have PGP, that's pretty good services. So we have those options. Here, I was talking about this flow wherein the files were moving from customers' ERP to the back office. There could be a scenarios wherein an out file needs to come back. The reason here is that the customer's ERP solution also requires a reconciliation of all the transactions they have processed, right? Now, our system is capable enough of generating this reverse files, what we call it as reverse files, back to the customer's ERP solution for the reconciliation purpose as well. Now, that is on this level. Moving on to the next slide, which gives you more detail about how we do our integrations with cloud's ERP. If you see here, there are multiple customers attached to it, right? Then we have our own, the bank's DMZ gateway. Once we receive these files in a file staging server, now again, we have two options at the file level. One is STP mode, that is, there is no requirement from the bank side to process it. It's pre-approved by the customers. Or there could be a second scenario wherein they require a non-STP mode, and they will also require authorization matrix attached to it, or they want any of the transactions which flows from the customer's ERP first land to in the bank's queue. All configurations are available out of the box from the system. The possible use case here is for, let's say, a Swift or a cross-border or a cross-payment transactions, right? That needs to be first governed and approved by the bank side, then only that transactions can be routed directly to the core banking system or to the Swift terminals, right? All those processing are supported. On our host-to-host, we support FTPs, STPs, HTTPS, right? And similarly, we can also do a reverse file upload. So what are the key features for our host-to-host services are, we have our own dashboard for that. So the customer at the bank side, as well as the customer, has an option to resend the failed files. They can generate the reports. They can generate notifications from the system perspective. File transfer is obviously the main criteria for the host-to-host. We also use encryption, decryption features like PGP or AES 256 digital signatures.
Apologies, Sumit, but I have to interrupt you. Apologies, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Sumit. I'll leave the floor for the judges. Thank you. Best of luck.
Thanks.
Thanks, Sumit. So can you share what has, some rough idea on your footprint in Middle East where this solution has been implemented?
Okay. So in Middle East, we had some initial customers which was on our old platform, but currently we are also pursuing few other banks which I can't name as of today. But if I talk about the live transaction side, we don't have currently in the Middle East. But however, having said that, but we are our host-to-host utility and the Finaxia product is being used across world, primarily into APAC region, and we have around 14 to 15 live customers which are using this utility.
Sure. And again, this is modular, that only this element of Finex complete product suite can be culled out and implemented, or this utility is part of a bigger platform?
Okay, to answer you, we have an integrated solution, yet at the same time, we are modular enough to provide this utility only to the bank if they wish to. If they wish to have other features like payments, receivables, or maybe we have a product line of ours, like starting from global payments, receivables, liquidity management, financial supply chain management, so and trade finance as well. So we can use these features or this utility across all the platforms, or we can just use the utility as well from the bank's perspective.
Okay. And you mentioned in the slide somewhere about encryption, decryption. So this is there a monitoring capability also, and sort of heartbeat feature that comes with it? And what kind of encryption, decryption can it support?
Okay. So the answer to the first question, yes, we do have our own encryption methodologies like PGP, and we also have AES 256 and 128 services being run. But at the same time, a lot of customers can always come back and say that we have specific requirements against this encryption part. So during our customer onboarding process itself, if you are onboarding a new customer and they have their own requirement of this encryption files, we take a decryption key from them and make it part of a customer onboarding process. So anytime you request your files to be processed, the customer decryption key will be used to decrypt the file, and then the file level validations will be run across.
And is this cloud hosted?
Yeah, it's cloud hosted. It's can be hosted at both the levels, at cloud as well as on-premise.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Hamad, Ayad, Kadar?
Yeah. Hi, Sumit. What about security access control?
So on the security access control, we do have complete, we call it as data access and functional access. So it's completely inbuilt solution of ours, wherein all the customer onboarding and all the linking with your banks. Let's say if it's a bank user, LDAP will be a feature wherein we can connect with the bank's LDAP solution and validate the users. Or else we can also validate on the customer level. We have our own OTP. We can connect with the bank's OTP servers. We can connect with the two-factor authentication wherein transaction passwords and other things can also be used across.
Sumit, I have one question.
Yes.
You spoke about the reverse file.
Yeah.
Now, is it possible to split the reverse file into, let's say, successful transactions separately and failed transactions separately?
Yes, we can. Basically, the requirement here was that the reverse file. Now, just let me give you an example. 100 records has come up from the client's ERP, right? And they are expecting this 100 records to be reconciled, basically. So for each and every time, the reverse file will require most of the data. And there could be multiple scenarios wherein, let's say on a particular day, only 80 records got status updated, whether success or fail, right? And 20 is still left over. So the file which will reverse file will be generated for 80 records in such case, which will be updated. As you said, success and the failures needs to be distinguished. We can work on that. Currently, what we do is, as on what status we have currently, we provide the same status back to the customer's ERP solution.
Okay. Okay.
Sumit, what kind of support do you give for virtual accounts and collections and things of that nature?
Okay, so we have a complete inbuilt solution, which we call it as advanced treasury management system, which covers your virtual account setups. Under virtual accounts, we support both payments on behalf of and receivables on behalf of features, and liquidity on behalf of is part of our roadmap, which will be coming shortly. So under payments and receivables at the both sides, the virtual accounts can be created by the corporates themselves or by the bank users. We have both the options available. Now, once those virtual accounts are created, they can share it with their respective buyers and the counterparties. And whenever we receive a payment, right, that becomes an incoming payment to us. So if they quote a virtual account number out there, we can get those details, and actual accounting entry will be posted to the real account which is set up in the system. And the virtual accounts creation can be dynamic. It could be static, as per the customers and the bank's requirement.
Sumit, one question regarding payments. So whether your solution provides a facility to tank solution at your end and releasing them only on the value date to the bank?
Yes. So basically, you are talking about the parking of the future dated
parking,
payments in the system.
Parking, tanking,
yes,
yeah.
We do that. So eventually, so we have again the configuration available wherein you can define what is the future days you can want to have in the system. So in case you maintain, let's say, value 3, in that case, any transaction which is ahead to 3 days, for example, today's 17th, any transaction which is over and above 20th value date will get parked in the system, and on the business date, that particular transaction will will get live, and the transaction processing will happen thereafter.
Okay. Okay. That's it from my side.
I have one question, whether it is possible just for those transactions and processing those payments, can it be integrated to a workflow approval or pre-authorizing them?
So when you say pre-authorization, you basically means that is already done in the customer's ERP?
Yeah, it's already there, and now it's moving to the core banking or to the bank, to the MBB side, let us say.
Yeah, we can do that. So we have both the options. Whether you want to have this as an STP mode, or you want a transaction processing to be done in non-STP mode. We do have that configurations.
Any other questions? All is good? Perfect. Thank you so much, Samit.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sumit. All the best.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So let's move to our last but not least a startup, Volante Technology. I would like to invite Ajay Singh Pundir. Hi Ajay, you can share your screen. Ajay, I can't hear you if you're talking, so.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Perfect.
Are you ready? We
Yeah,
can
I'm
start?
good. Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So Volante is a challenger and a leader in the payments processing space. And the way we look at our customers is as our partners, and we go beyond having a vendor and a customer relationship, and we work towards a partnership relationship. And whatever we're going to propose here is just the surface. In our experience, our approach towards our customers goes way deeper. Now, what we offer, our proposition is, what we call as WorldPay ecosystem, and host-to-host connectivity, or as we call it, corporate technical onboarding, is a key aspect of our acquisition mechanism. What we offer is one digital solution for every type of transformation, every type of communication, irrespective of the communication protocols. And once the file, transaction, instruction, whatever a corporate needs to process with the bank is received, we offer a business solution that can perform various pre-processing capabilities as well. So whether it is enrichment, whether it is validation, whether structural or business validations, whether it's orchestration of these files, so debulking the file, sending half of it or failed files to a certain level and rest of it forwarded to a bank's payment engine to process. We manage all of that. In the process of doing all of this, we also can send out alerts and notifications to peripheral systems, whether they are bank's internal systems or to the customer directly. On the outgoing side, in terms of orchestration, the transformation can be applied again. So there could be cases where the file comes in say, a proprietary format, which could be flat, which could be one of the MT formats, which could be a bit more ISO based. But on the outgoing side, you can reformat it based on the destination, and you can have all of that configured, whether it's the mappings between the transformations, whether it's the actual transformations themselves. We can do all of that using the business rules and also various other configurations that we provide. Now, beyond the solution itself, the key aspect of the solution is speed to market and how quickly we can do it. And implementation was a question which was raised a couple of times. So this is a cloud agnostic solution. We're not just services based, we're microservices based. All right. This was a solution which was built from the ground up for the modern financial industry. So you can have decoupled services. And I'll talk about the ecosystem in a minute, but you can have decoupled services. You can have very customer focused services that you offer to various corporate customers. So it's cloud agnostic. We are gold partners with Microsoft. We are partners with top tier partners with AWS. We've got live customers in both, one in the US in form of Goldman Sachs. We've got a customer in UAE as well. And we do hybrid models as well, private cloud, public cloud. We support all of that. The second aspect is integrations and transformations. We've spoken about it, but out of the box, the solution offers 90 plus industry global standards. So whether they're card formats 85, 83, whether they are ISO 20022, whether they are any other type of proprietary format, trade messages for that matter, doesn't matter. You have the libraries ready, and whatever comes up in the future will be added to the kitty. So using these 90 plus global standards, you can develop your own transformations. You have about 250 plus already out of the box, but you can develop your own. All of this without any code changes, everything done through a visual modeling tool and which reduces your speed to market and your cost of development as well, because the customers, the corporate's not going to be, they can ask for more, right? And it's not just going to be one corporate, it's not just going to be one SME or MSME. The needs are going to keep changing. And this is a solution which makes you self-sufficient. You don't have to come back to us for these functional aspects, whether it's transformations, whether it's integration, you can do it, most of it yourself. In terms of timelines, in our experience, it varies between, because of various variables, but in our experience, we've done 6 weeks MVP and about 10 weeks of final code dump. So we follow certain best practices which improve the speed to implementation. Because the solution is so robust, we have handled huge volumes. We've handled huge TPS and so on and so forth. That's about the solution. In terms of details of how a bank user can look at these solutions and can use these libraries, as I said, most of the industry standards, if they're supported today, is going to be part of the platform that you would get. In the future, if anything else comes up, you will have that as well. In terms of using these standards, you have the transformations which are out of the box, but then you can build it yourself using very sort of a friendly user interface, simple user interface, which helps you in mapping, visual modeling of things to be done beyond validation. So a basic workflow for enrichment, validation, everything can be used visually, and it provides you those blocks, and you can drag and drop, and you can decide what decisions have to be made before the payment or the instruction of the file has to be sent out.
Apologies, I have to interrupt you. Sorry for that, Ajay, but the time is up. So let's be fair with everyone. I'll leave the floor for questions from the judges. Thank you.
Thank you. Ajay, thanks a lot.
Sure.
So again, I know Volante offers a full payment orchestration capability. So this is integral to that entire engine, or similar to my earlier question, or is this something which comes as a standalone utility?
So, okay. So Vineet, what we offer is an ecosystem. This is part of that ecosystem. This is independent if you want it, but because you would have access to the ecosystem, rest of the capabilities that I mentioned, whether they're end-to-end file processing, payment processing, connectivity with the final clearance, you can have that done as well. But in this case, the focus is host-to-host connectivity, and that's what we're offering. You will have the entire ecosystem at your disposal. As I said, it's a microservices-based solution. You will have very loosely decoupled services, and you can deploy it in various ways in your containerized platform.
So let me rephrase this. So if we want to just start with host-to-host, would it require a full payment engine implementation, or we can just implement host-to-host?
Just implement host-to-host.
Okay. And you mentioned about pre-configured, pre-mapped message formats and templates. And anything beyond that is something which comes with a toolkit, or is this something which your technical team or our technical team will have to develop jointly with client? Right. How does it work?
So the solution comes with what we call as a designer platform. It's an integrated development environment. You can call it an SDK, which enables your developers, your analysts, your QAs to visually model transformations, mappings, even pre-processing workflows if need be. So you will have access to this tool, which you can use for transformation, you can use for integrations, and basically generating code, runtime code that could be deployed either on your middleware or Volante software directly. You will have access to it, you will have training for it. In our experience, over a period of time, once the bank and the prospect customer has enough experience on it, you don't really need to come to us. And I would like to take the name of a customer, which is public information. Nedbank in South Africa uses this for the entire functional middleware. So and it's a big bank in South Africa, and they've got roots across other parts of Africa as well. The application of the solution are sort of exponential, like really huge, and you can sort of really own and control the entire thing.
Sure. And while this seems like a quite a comprehensive engine, as you explained, serving various endpoints. Have you had any experience in connecting it to a small client, like in the SME segment?
So we've had a lot of implementations where the customers have been of various sizes. So from bigger corporates to smallers, it doesn't really matter from our perspective. It can be scaled up, or sort of based on the need of a corporate, whether the file size or communication protocols are simple or complicated. Doesn't really matter from our perspective. We've had experiences of both type of prospects.
To add on to that, the customer segment is not relevant from a solution standpoint. The solution has got the flexibility and the scalability to cater for a major ERP or solutions that a corporate might have, or also cater for proprietary structures that a SME type infrastructure would have. So from a solution standpoint, there is nothing which restricts or a bank from scaling it across the spectrum of customers.
So we saw the flow. What about does it come with a dashboard for the bank or for the client?
Yes, Volante comes with a dashboard which is typically used by the operational users within the bank to monitor the flow of transactions, or even set up the workflow that is needed for a particular acquisition process that you want to set up for a corporate, inclusive of the level of acknowledgements that you want to send back to the corporate, at what stages you want to send in, if you want to define any thresholds, error thresholds. All those capabilities are embedded as part of the platform, and that's something which can be done through the UI, Vineet.
And this is what you would train the bank users to do, or this would be done from your end?
So the initial implementation is something that would be done as part of our team, and there would be an enablement journey that we would be doing for training the bank or your SI. If within your IT team you have an SI partner, we would enable them as well, so that if you want to onboard a corporate who's got a file format which is proprietary to them, how you could onboard that particular corporate and do the relevant transformation associated with that corporate is something that we would train you as well, Vineet, so that you can be self-sufficient in your journey.
Okay.
I have one query. In your slide, I saw MT940, MT942, and other formats.
Mm-hmm.
Just curiosity, because MT940 is a pretty much simple, straightforward daily statement. About MT942, so are you connecting to the core bank to getting this information so that you will be sending it out, or how you are supporting MT942?
So it'll be an integration with the core banking, Kedar, because the line 42s or any statements for that matter will be generated out of a core banking. All that we will be doing is that we'll be taking that information from your relevant systems and conveying that feedback back onto the corporate in whatever structure or format that they would look for.
Okay. And you will be able to send MT942 only to customer, or you will be able to integrate with banks Swift for sending it out on a particular week as per our agreement with the customer?
We can support either as it can be a direct interaction with the corporate to send it to their ERPs directly, or we can connect to your Swift network for sending it via your the Swift gateway that you'd have.
Okay, I have one more query, which may not be relevant. I don't know whether your platform can be used by any way for the purpose of collections, something related to collection area, or is it predominantly only in the payments area?
Well, okay, if you can just
elaborate. Yeah.
I mean, see, there are multiple solutions like Kobo, Pobo, and there are a lot of things there in the collections. So whether it can be tweaked or you have anything which can be used for the purpose of collections.
So it's for us, it's a payment file, or it's a file that's going to be initiated by the corporate for which can cover their AR or AP requirements. So from our perspective, as a host to, if I just isolate it to a host to host type solution, it's going to be a set of transactions that the customer would be initiating, which will then result into either into a payment or a collection request as part of the processing lifecycle within the bank. Okay. And yeah.
Okay. And I am not asking you the questions because you are in the payment area. I mean, you must be supporting all MP, IXO, PEN, and 700 series, 900 series, everything. Correct?
That's
from
right.
the processing perspective. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Hi, Vijay. Ajay, sorry. During your presentation, you mentioned the SDK. What are the functionalities supported by that SDK?
So, like I said, transformation and integration is an essential component of the overall solution. We offer certain things out of the box, but anything that has to be customized in terms of, well, I shouldn't say customized, configured for a certain corporate or an SME, someone will have to do those mappings, communications, integrations, as we call it. So all these aspects, validations, enrichments, all these aspects can be taken care by the SDK. So you'll have a UI where you can build, we call it cartridges, transformations. You can build transformations, and you can sort of build visual workflows where you can drag and drop and say, all right, if a message comes in, a file comes in, and if this is the attribute, I want to change this attribute with something else because of certain decision-making logic, right? So these kind of things you can do visually. Now the result of it, and again, this is a component of the overall solution, the result of it is going to be a jar file or a WAR file, which will be deployed within the solution, which is the Volante ecosystem, as we said. But it is also possible to generate this code and deploy on an independent middleware, and that's the flexibility, robustness that you would get from this this IDE, as we call it, integrated development environment. It's more of a development environment rather than an SDK, I would say. Did I answer your question?
Can we integrate that SDK as part of our internet or mobile banking?
Can you?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. I mean, again, see, the SDK is nothing but a tool that Ajay was referring to. And through that tool, whatever output you generate can be deployed as an independent entity into either as a jar file or a WAR file, or it can also be an API which can be generated for any communication. I mean, like we've done, if I look at it from pure host to host and an extension of the host to host capability, I mean, this is something that some of our customers are using it for offering some kind of value added services as well.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Any other questions from the judges? Hamad, Vineet, all is good? Perfect.
There is just one more thing, Melissa, just one more thing. I would request either Subbu or Ajay to throw some more light on the new art of possibility that the platform can give, and wherein NBB can service other fintechs, other customers, other banks through them, and it can become a new revenue source for them as well, apart from the as-is requirement, which is there in terms of the host-to-host, which we are currently discussing. Can you pick it up, guys?
Right. So, and I think that was one of the questions as well, right? I mean, you do want to cater to your customers, but beyond that, beyond catering to your existing customers, how do you use this infrastructure which you can invest in to generate more revenue? And because it's a payments as a service, again, on the connectivity side though, on technical onboarding side though, you can leverage this, or you can build a platform, and this is an approach. You can build a platform with us as a partner where you can offer these services, whether it's a validation service, whether it's a transformation service, whether it's end-to-end connectivity, host technical onboarding for corporates to other banks, even fintechs. It's an API game. It's how easily you allow these players in the industry to enter the platform. And that's something we really believe that could be the next horizon beyond going and talking to customers and sort of processing their files. You can leverage the platform to build an ecosystem, build a platform that can be leveraged to generate more revenue and use your existing infrastructure to offer to banks, fintechs, and even SMEs and corporates directly.
Just to give you one more, to add a little more color to it before we sign off. See, what we did in US was a very small case, very small use case, but as an organization, we believe it's not just catering to our partners, it's more so about catering to the industry as a whole. So for NACHA validations, we had a portal whereby the commercial banks can upload the formats, or even the corporates can upload the formats, and they would get a return back in terms of whether that specific format is in alliance with the NACHA formats or not. If not, we would return them, that these are the changes you need to amend or repair and things like that. So these are things and multiple use cases which we have been doing over a period of time. There was another lovely use case which we did in the UK with one of the tier 1 banks, in which we generated we released one of our screens also to them, where the corporates, for Oyster cards, to get refunds from Oyster cards when people walk out of UK. Typically, nobody has the time to, deposit it and then take the refund back, but it is always tagged against you, and it lies as a cash from a bank perspective, from the London Underground perspective, which they have to give. So the bank came to us to develop this use case. We developed it for them, whereby they would release based on that tagging of the proxy. So typically when you take an Oyster card, you would either give your email ID or your mobile number. So when you give those, we generate a link, which is either through SMS or through emails, and it goes to that specific person. So the interesting part is, as a bank and as Volpay, we are pushing the onus to the customer. You fill in the details, it gives the complete ownership to the customer. You give us where you want the money, how you want the money, whether you want it back in your credit card or you want it in your bank account, which currency, and then eventually we honor that payment in the whole life cycle and the scheme of things. A lot of other use cases, we can delve more in it when we go further, if we go further, fingers crossed. But we wanted to submit that this is something which we have been doing over a period of time. And we not only take, as Ajay said, and as your first question in terms of whether we are modular, we are actually not even modular, we are granular. We pick up things in terms of specific use cases. So we typically call itself like a chiclet diagram. You can pick up whatever chiclet you want in the whole piece of the puzzle. And that puzzle piece we will embed in your complete ecosystem to give you the end-to-end offering of the complete life cycle as you desire. I think that's my final submission.
Thank you very much. All right, I think we're good. We need anything else? Any other questions? We're good to go?
No questions from our side. Thank you very much, Volante team.
Thank
all
you.
The best.
Yeah, thank you. All the best. So I would like, good luck. So I would like to thank everyone for your time. This time we would be announcing the winner right ahead after the competition. So please stay tuned and we'll get in touch with you. For now, I would like to invite the judges, please, to join the other call for like a couple of minutes. And for the rest, best of luck. We'll get in touch. Thank you all. And we'll see. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for all the judges also. Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a wonderful.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck.
Event.